Carl and Liam here from Brains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for short, and is of course getting Goosebumps. Guess what? It's season 3. We are starting off season 3. First episode, Shocker on Shock Street. A book I remembered well, an episode I remembered well enough. Watching it though again was an actual delight because I think this episode is excellent up to a point. I have a big issue with it, but we'll get to that when it comes to it. But I love this. I think this is a great episode. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a fun one, and I think the thing that sticks out to me in terms of being memorable is I always remember the name of it, just quite a unique name. But I never seem to remember what it's actually about until watching it. I'm like, oh yeah, it's that episode, and it's got an interesting twist at the end that if you already kind of know what it is, it does make it maybe damage it a little bit. Sometimes the twists and Goosebumps are like good regardless if you go back and rewatch them, whereas this one, maybe if you know it beforehand, it does make it a little more underwhelming. But we'll get into it.
Okay, see, I do quite like the twist regardless. It's the stinger. It's the extra bit that I don't like. But ultimately, I always remember this. I remember the book cover. Because, of course, the book cover featured that giant kind of animatronic grasshopper thingy, praying mantis, that doesn't actually exist in this episode at all. But that's no surprise. Budgetary reasons, of course. But this is one I always, when I was younger, liked the episodes or liked things that dealt around horror theme parks. And while this isn't necessarily the best one because One Day at Horrorland exists as well, this had some cool visuals that I always quite enjoyed.
I agree. No, it definitely has some strong aspects, but it always did remind me of One Day at Horrorland as well. It's interesting that they both take place in the same season.
That is true. That is true. That's coming later on. We have got some unique stuff to cover in season 3, stuff that I've never even heard of because I'm 99% sure I have not seen a lot of the episodes in this. I may have when it comes to it, and they'll just be like, "Oh yeah, I had seen that," and the memory will kick in. But looking at the list,
I literally just flicked through the list of episodes, and man, there is some really wacky shit to come. This has got to be the season of like wackiness compared to other ones. Like there's some really strong stuff though. Like I'm really looking forward to discussing some of these episodes because there's some that I think we're going to be really divided on, like similar to like Attack of the Mutant or like the Garden Gnomes episode, because I don't know, I kind of like when Goosebumps goes super weird and there's some real weird shit. So
it is going to be a lot of fun. It's quite exciting to get to that point where things potentially could be quite fresh for me and I've never seen them. And it's like, okay, I don't have any memory. This is brand new to me. And I'll admit, going into this, reading up the trivia beforehand into this episode and this season, I expected at the start to get quite a shift because one of the things that were highlighted in the information was that apparently season 3 had a different theme music that was remixed and was actually called Ultimate Goosebumps, but then later changed back to Goosebumps. So when I started this off, I was quite surprised to not see a remix. The episode, the way I watched it, didn't have any remixed music or anything. It was just the same thing.
Yeah, same for me. It was completely normal. But yeah, this is quite a traditional start. If you were thinking, no, this is going to be a complete like a new vibe or something, like this kind of like is in line with the other episodes. But then as it goes along this season, it definitely goes into a different territory.
Yeah, what kind of convinced me as well that we weren't moving too far away at this point was seeing that it was directed by Brandy Bradshaw and written by Dan Angel and Billy Brown, names that have come up before, particularly on the writing side more than anything else. This is the 45th episode overall, but it's also the 35th book from the original series, first published in 1995. And this episode aired in September 1997. The cast, just 3. I'm highlighting just 3. Brooke Nevin as Erin, Ben Cook as Marty, and Eric Peterson as Mr. Wright. Now, I've got to jump back to Ben Cook, who plays Marty specifically, because this is not his first appearance in Goosebumps.
I thought I recognized his face.
Yeah. He actually played Jerry in season 1's Piano Lessons Can Be Murder, and probably more memorable, Josh in season 2's Welcome to the Dead House.
Oh yes, that's true. Yeah.
So he's had some fairly significant roles in this show to date.
For sure.
What also makes this episode quite unique, I think, amongst anything else, is this has one of the most heavily referencing other Goosebump episodes that you may ever see.
Yeah, I mean, just the opening by itself that you're going to discuss, it feels like it's almost breaking the fourth wall with some of the stuff they do in this. Like, yeah, it's almost like it takes place in a world where Goosebumps exists or something. Yeah.
It does, yeah, because that's one of the biggest trivia points. The animatronics, masks, and things that appear. You will see if you keep your eyes open. Some more obvious than others, some not. The mask for one of the creeps from Calling All Creeps. The piranha person will actually appear in a later episode, Deep Trouble. Scarecrows from the Scarecrow Walks of Midnight. Some of the masks from the Haunted Mask and a Haunted Mask 2. One of the snake monsters from The Girl Who Cried Monster. Prince Kororoo from Return of the Mummy. The werewolf animatronic that's similar to the werewolf models from the Werewolf of Fever Swamp and a later episode Werewolf Skin, as well as other things just dotted around. You are right. There was a point where I was like, wait, am I missing something? This is supposed to be 4/4 breaking, as if it's set within the world and Goosebumps exists in it.
I thought that's the direction it was going to be going, but it doesn't quite go there. It's kind of just like a nice little Easter egg type thing for viewers that have stuck with it. I guess it's fun to like be like, oh my god, there's that. You know, it's quite interesting.
I agree. It's fun for that as well. And one other factoid, happily I didn't watch this version, but in the UK, censorship was always a big deal in the 80s and 90s, eventually disappearing as we hit the noughties and things went a bit wilder. But in the UK, there's a scene in this episode that was edited out and cut due to
really?
Kids. Yes.
What was that?
It's where Marty is electrocuted. That is edited out. You don't see it?
Edited out? Wait, was it edited out in your version that you saw? Or no, it wasn't. In the one I saw, it wasn't. So they decided to edit that out. I guess they didn't want to encourage kids touching electrical fences, I suppose.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, when we get to that, we'll talk about the electrocution anyway, because I was baffled over it, because I read that trivia and I thought, oh, am I watching? I suppose we could probably say it's no big deal, but I watch my episodes on Daily Motion.
Yeah, I watch it on, I can't remember what the website's called, but I actually watched this one on YouTube because some of the episodes are uploaded on YouTube. So that was much easier.
You're watching the American versions, because mine normally has a Fox thing in the corner.
The one on YouTube didn't have anything, so I don't know where it was, but someone had uploaded it and somehow got it to stay up on YouTube. I think maybe a lot of season 3 is actually on there, but I only watched the ones we're going to be discussing now. So,
well, to be fair, every episode that obviously we include clips as we talk along. We include clips, and normally quite a few. I'm quite brave with the clips for this because to date we have never received a copyright strike. We get claims, but not on all of them. Only some of them. So even that's an interesting thing.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting, actually. I wonder why that is.
No idea, but it is what it is. But yeah, we're obviously going to talk through the story as per usual. And we begin focusing on a room full of masks and animatronics, many of which are clearly recognizable. 2 kids come in. This is Marty, Ben Cook, and Erin Brooke Nevin. He says that her father will kill them if he finds them in this room, and she accuses them of being scared, which he denies before getting started by a mask. And initially I was like, no, oh, come on, man. Are you kidding me? This again, where like one of them is a scaredy cat and the other's teasing them and we shouldn't be in this room. I'm like, oh God, season 3, think outside the box.
Yeah, I mean, we do give the people that, I mean, obviously it's written by R.L. Stine, so I guess they're just taking from his books and his notes, and so they can't really change much. But like, I guess I was hoping that because it's a new season, maybe new season, new ideas, man. But no, straight off the bat.
Yeah, as they look around, we see they're being watched by an unknown person. Marty then gets excited when he sees some movie posters, and he calls them Shocker on Shock Street Films. Basically, that's a studio in a sort of vein of like Hammer Horror and things like that, but more for schlocky monster movies. And I really love that. I'm like, oh, I love studios like that. That's so cool.
Yeah, and it does kind of like tie into the whole is this like sort of breaking the fourth wall. It's quite an interesting idea because it's like I've praised a lot of the episodes of Goosebumps because they come across as homages to those types of movies, and then you're saying that it's basically the studio behind making them is this. That's quite cool.
It is very cool, and what's also cool as well, Erin points out that her father is the person that creates these monsters. He creates the monsters for the studios. He builds the masks, animatronics, and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, that's a cool idea as well.
The mad scientist, of course.
Yes, he is.
Eccentric in performance incoming.
They then notice a full-bodied monster that Erin remarks that she's never seen before. They kind of mess around, but acknowledging that they look surreal before going to check out some werewolf parts. So on a table, there's like an animatronic arm and an animatronic head. As they walk off, the monster they were looking at starts to move. Then it groans, which startles Erin. But before that can continue, we then have the werewolf head that Marty picks up starts to move, and then one of the arms reaches out to grabs Erin.
But you said they were fake. I thought they were. Erin! It won't come off! Come on! It's not coming off. It's too strong.
And this is our fade to black thing. And you're like, oh, will they survive? I have no idea. We're only 2 minutes into the episode, but who will they? Will they make it out of this one alive?
Man, one time they should have just done that and then had credits. Like, can you imagine? Like, that would have been a real surprise, you know? Oh, well.
It would have been a surprise as well. Back in the room, of course, they're still struggling with the arm, which has a tight grip. They end up ripping the fur off, revealing the robotic arm underneath. We then hear someone laughing, and we see a man is controlling it via remote control. This is Mr. Wright, Erin's father, Eric Peterson. He reveals himself and having enjoyed his prank, because again, it's classic Goosebumps. Gotta do some pranking. Don't get it though. Don't get some part of this. Why did they focus on the big one coming to life, moving at all, when that was actually not related to anything at all? Like, is the werewolf part more than anything else?
No, that's a good point.
I actually thought the father was going to be in costume. I thought he was hiding under it. He was going to move and scared, and that's what I was expecting.
Yeah.
Erin then introduces Marty to her dad, who tries to get Marty to shake the werewolf hand, which Marty doesn't want to. And as Liam already said, you immediately get this eccentricity as he kind of messes around and then gets super excited by showing off the creatures to Marty. We get kind of a rundown of some of them. The Tordinator, which is an acid-spitting frog, which is using the creep's mask. If you've seen calling all creeps, you'll instantly recognize it.
Yeah, I mean, I did take note of the fact that, like, even though it is fun to see these props and stuff back again, it almost is a little bit lazy, you know, to be a little bit critical, to just take things that you've had before, repurpose them and use them again. I can just understand why they did it, you know, and it works into the episode well, like, it's fun and interesting, maybe like a tad lazy.
I thought it was lazy using the creep's mask for this character, because I understand having it in the background and having it as a reference point, but the Tordinator will actually have a role in the episode, and then it's just like, no, you're just using something that, let's be honest, in the order of the episodes being aired, was not that long ago.
Yeah, so it's clearly fresh in your mind, and you're like, oh, they've just taken that mask and they put something new on it, you know? Yeah.
We got the same with the snake as well. Venomous snake face. He loves raw meat. Mr. Wright then calls his children and says that he can't believe the studio pays him to create these. Okay, yeah, all right, yep. Yeah. Erin then notices an open door with a strange glow coming from inside. She asks her dad about what's inside, approaches it, but he freaks out and shouts at her, telling her that it is off limits and she can't go inside ever. I've got a real stay out of the basement vibe.
I was about to say, stay out of the basement, you know, because that's the thing, man.
It's exactly that. After calming down, he then shows them that the studio is going to open a tour ride and that they're going to ride it. They'll be the first two to do so. Marty is over the moon about this, as Mr. Wright describes the ride and the fact that he thinks it should be very scary. And it's okay, cool, I don't mind this idea. Yeah, and it's believable as well, because, you know, why wouldn't I go on this ride? Why would I not treat my daughter and her friend to this experience? Yeah.
Yeah, it makes complete sense.
Erin then asks if her mother can come, which causes Mr. Wright to react really badly. Like, he's like, what are you talking about? No, she can't, like that. It's an odd scene.
Hey, Dad, can Mom come with us?
Excuse me? What did you say?
Can Mom come? She loves scary rides.
No. You two will be the only ones on the ride.
Now, I reckon the episode gives away its twist here.
I think so.
Yep. I think it gives at least a part of the twist. in the sense that enough, not necessarily that you will know and completely understand why, but you know there's an oddity here, and this is it. I think it could be seen as an error, but in the context of the story, I think it could also be seen as kind of like it works. And this is simply this. I got this. Mr. Wright has set up so these two children, these kids, can go on this ride. He's prepared all this. Yet this is the first time he's meeting Marty, according to what we've seen. Aaron introduces Marty, my friend Marty, shake my hand. How could he have set it up so they would be the first two on the ride when he didn't even know Marty was coming?
Yeah, that's true. That could be a big error.
Yeah. Or
yeah, I mean, surely he would have met Marty before at some point. I mean, yeah, that's true.
It works into the story, of course, is because Mr. Wright was completely aware from the very start that they were coming, you know. But at this point in time, I was like, that seems like a really glaring mistake to make.
Also, quick random thought. I don't remember what the line was, but I remember at the time someone said something about someone said something to Marty, and I swear it was a line ripped straight from Back to the Future. Like it was some line from Back to the Future that was memorable to me. I can't remember what it was because his name's Marty. Because his name's Marty, of course, and you got the mad scientist. I swear there was some line that was like ripped straight from it, like a fun little Easter egg, but I can't remember what it was. So it's useless to mention it. But
well,
still.
It's not useless because I don't remember and I didn't know it. However, it's very easy for me to say at this point, I will look back and hopefully if I find that line does exist, it will be added here.
And if not, I'm wrong and I'm an idiot.
Yes, if not, we carry on. So we then cut to the start of the ride as the kids get in the tram car. Rider beware, you're in for a scare. Do like that. I like that little touch.
Yeah.
Mr. Wright then demands they stay in the tram car no matter what. And he then gives them laser guns if they get into trouble. I was like, wait, what? And admittedly, like, I'm like, okay, maybe it is like an interactive ride and it's kind of fake guns and stuff like that. But the kids don't ask that question. That never actually gets explained. It's just like, oh, if you want into trouble, use these. I'd be like, what do you mean use them? Are we like, what does that mean? Am I about to, like that? It just seems a bit silly.
That's true. And also based on the eventual twist, surely they should ask questions. I mean, anyone, the whole idea is they're supposed to be trialing this ride for like, don't give away the twist, but when other kids come in and do it. So you want them to react naturally to what a kid would do in that situation. So if they ask the questions afterwards, but maybe it's supposed to be a mystery. So you're supposed to not know, but like, you'd need some instruction, of course, and you'd have a lot of questions, and they just kind of don't ask them, do they? Really? So,
agreed. But off they go, and the first scare sees them going down a dark tunnel where disembodied hands try to grab them. Yep, what works. And if you're in like a ghost train, that's a good scare.
Yeah, I liked it.
I can't believe we're the first ones to take the tour.
Then they go. They go by a tunnel of really fake-looking fire. Yeah, all right.
There's a lot of fake fire in this episode. Actually, might be the most ever of any Goosebumps episode.
When we get to that, that's something. Well, we'll talk about that, and we'll get to it. There's something really interesting there. They then witness a criminal being given the electric chair. It's a couple of animatronics. I really like that one because I was like, that's really dark. Again, like kids-wise. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's just like an execution. You can't just put that in a kid's show.
Exactly. They're then attacked by the Scarecrows from the Scarecrow Walks at Midnight before they end up in the Tunnel of Doom, which is it's a visual trippy tunnel with that whole kind of like spinny things with a scary face at the end of it that you're riding towards. And those actually things are 10 a penny in a lot of sort of horror rides in real life.
The Tunnel of Doom.
Yeah, I mean, that just reminded me of some like terrible, like really awful experiences on ghost trains. And I don't mean in terms of them being like good. I mean them being shit.
Yes. I do miss ghost trains these days because not many theme parks run them, but I don't remember having great memories of being on many.
Yeah, I mean, the whole concept of this train and stuff, it made me like, I've always wanted to ride on like a really high quality ghost train. I don't like the idea of like there being people there grabbing you and shit, but like one that's actually made well, you know, that has like good props and like good atmosphere and stuff like that. And for a minute, I was like, with the whole arms grabbing them and stuff, I was like, you know, this is going somewhere, and then it fucks it up at the end.
It does. Yeah. Before they hit the face, the car turns and they find themselves in a dark room. The tram car stops moving and the kids start to wonder if it has broken down. Marty waits all of 10 seconds. I counted, it's about 11 in total before he decides he's just going to get out of the car. And I was a bit like, dude, like, give it like 30 or a minute at least.
Yeah, because what if it's part of the ride? What if you get off and then, oh fuck, there goes the car, you know?
Yeah. Exactly that. An alarm does start to sound though. So like we have this really kind of crappy ghost train that has such an advancement that it can apparently tell when you're getting out of the car. He then tries to move the car himself before Aaron gets out of help. They can't move it and get no answers from their cries for help. So basically decide to walk back through the ride, heading back the way they came. But Aaron remembers to grab their guns. And I did kind of write a bloody Americans. So don't forget guns.
Can't forget that. Also, that's why they didn't ask any questions when he handed the children guns, because it's America, man.
Yeah. Had them since birth. They're used to it.
They put it in the holster next to their other rifle.
In the dark, they're attacked by bats, which was odd because they're walking back through the ride. So why didn't the bats part happen when they went first through the ride?
Sounds overly complex, this ride.
Yes, it is overly complex. Once they leave, they continue hearing a growl from ahead. And then start off by the arrival of the Tordinator, who basically looks like a sci-fi villain, kind of Borg-like, with a black suit and all that, and like wires sticking out of him, but with that calling all creep's head.
Yeah.
But Marty deals with him by shooting him with a laser pistol. It doesn't seem to have much of an effect except to make the Tordinator back off and around the corner, never to be seen again. Ooh.
I wonder what would happen if they don't shoot it though. Like, what would it do? That's what I'd always wonder.
Kill you? I don't know. You're right. Who knows? They find themselves back at the Tunnel of the Doom, but this time it's off. The lights are off and they appear to be trapped inside with no way out. But Aaron sees an emergency button, so pushes it and it opens up a door that leads them outside into Shop Street, which is basically a set. I do like the look of this street and set. It feels very movie-like.
Yeah, and I like that idea of like, yeah, being able to explore this set and having mystery doors and stuff like that. That sounds fun.
Agreed. As well as Marty helps because he's in a bit of awe and he runs around talking about like where scenes of movies were set. And he's like, oh, this is where so-and-so happened. This is where so-and-so happens. I was like, yeah, that's kind of cool. It makes it feel more real.
It's like if you got dropped into like Elm Street, you know, you'd be like, oh my God, that's where, you know, Nancy's house is and stuff like that. That'd be cool, you know?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I liked it. But Aaron is just comfortable thinking it's all very odd. Marty suggests, hey, let's just look inside some of the buildings. And we kind of get, this kind of funny thing where he opens the door first to see a wall of flames inside. And like his response is that it looks just like the movies and looks so real. And I was a bit baffled over this because I was like, okay, it can't be real because they'd feel the heat and be like, oh, that's real.
Also, you know, health and safety, man. They're never going to approve that.
No.
It'll take one kid to push another kid and that's it. You're closed down.
Well, yeah, because talk about the next door, which reveals a void of basically nothing aside from a storm in the distance. And I was like, that's so dangerous. Or like, I know it's supposed to not be real, but I'm like,
yeah, I think they're just saying that like the effect is so realistic, but it's not actually real. That's what they're supposed to be saying. But then that kind of like the illusion of it, kind of, if it, you know, if it's not actually, I don't know. You have to kind of suspend your disbelief, I suppose.
Yeah, the thing is, I think sometimes we get a bit stuck in Goosebumps by being so used to the sinister sort of behavior going on, and that there's always something supernatural or weird going on. That this episode doesn't actually have any of that, and actually, it's just an episode based entirely upon robots, animatronics, and special effects.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is intrigue to what is actually going, because in your mind you're just thinking, okay, there's these two kids, they're just exploring this guy, like testing out this guy's park, and you're like, okay, this has got to lead somewhere, which it does. And the twist is like, well, we'll talk about the twist when we get to it.
Yes, absolutely. Erin says they shouldn't be here, but Marty is enjoying himself. He runs off to the arcade with Erin in pursuit, and inside the arcade, they find an elevator and take it down into some sort of chemical dumping area. Here, Marty kind of has a character change, and it's one of those abrupt Goosebumps shifts that I'm like, wait, what? Because he starts to act like a bit of a dick, enough so that Erin's kind of like, all right, I'm gone, I'm walking off. And it's like, wait a minute, this is a character that started off being a scaredy cat, now is in awe of what's around him, and now is basically being like, well, if you want to go, fuck off. I'm like, what?
Unless it ties into, again, what's to come, maybe.
Yeah, here's the problem though. Like, I the fact that we've got the only way we can attach these parts is to get to the end and then go back and say, okay, maybe we can give it a break because this is what its programming was, or this, whatever. And I'm not sure it deserves that free ride. It's still got to tell a story from beginning to end. A good twist should make you look back and go, oh, those were the hints. That was the hints. This isn't a hint. There's nothing here that hints about that. It's just a character shift. And I don't know if I like it.
Maybe it's, like I said, it's supposed to hint towards how they're like, I don't want to say the word, but like glitching in a certain sense, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe again as well, it would a bit more time, a bit more extension on this standard Goosebumps episode length. We could have dealt into that a bit more, and it might have been understandable a bit more.
It could have been more subtle rather than just a sudden change. Yeah.
Agreed. But before Erin can leave, he's grabbed by another monster, the toxic creep, who's on the other side of an electrical fence. So he pulls Marty towards the fence. This is the part that was cut in the British version. Sparks fly. Erin manages to help him get free. The monster leaves and Marty collapses. So do I have problems with this fucking scene? Guys, if there's an electric fence, why, when the toxic monster creep puts his hands through it and touches the fence, do no sparks fly at all? Why, when Marty is first grabbed, does it take like 30 seconds for any sparks to fly? Why are those sparks nowhere near him? And why does it? And the episode will tell you he got electrocuted, but will not show you that at all, because all he is struggling with him. And then when he falls to the floor, it's like, oh no, he got electrocuted. It's like, no, he didn't. He was just struggling with the creep. I thought it was dumb.
Yeah, I mean, that it's dumb. Like, it should have been a thing where it's like, in that moment, he realized maybe that there wasn't actually any real danger, because it was just an effect. Like you said, it doesn't even go off at the right time. It's kind of like, that's why they're testing it, because everything's not working the way it's supposed to. And maybe they need to like rejig that to make sure it goes off better, that sort of thing. But yeah.
I'd also say as well, know what we know about the ending. This scene should have come before his character change, because then that would be a legit look and go, oh, actually, when I look back, the electricity fried his circuits.
Yeah, that's very true.
But when he comes round, he says he's okay. Erin says it's time to get out of here, but the elevator has stopped working. So Erin suggests they head deeper in to find a way out and talk about the electricity and the fact that they think the toxic creep was real. So now they're beginning to think the shit around them is real. They wonder why her father created real monsters instead of what is the bigger question, not why would he create monsters? How did he create monsters, guys? How?
Yeah, got too hung up on the why.
Yeah. The kids find themselves in a bigger room, and Erin thinks she hears footsteps. They're then attacked by Piranha Person.
It stopped. Piranha Person! Which one? No, that's a stupid question. I'd say it wants us for its afternoon snack. Maybe this isn't real. Maybe this is one big practical joke. It looks pretty real to me. Only one way to find out.
Now, I don't know if you got this, but he has a roar that sounds really familiar, but I can't put my finger on what it was. Did you recognize it? Did you work it out?
Did sound familiar, so maybe it was just like a stock type sound potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'll admit, I'll say this for clarity. As of the time of recording, this is the second video we're doing after a tier list. Now, I wrote these notes the other day. So when I wrote, I can't put my finger in it, I wrote it then. During the tier list, we covered an episode from season 2 called How to Kill a Monster. And in that, the creature has a specific roar. Now, I can't remember, and I maybe will try and link it up in this video here. Is it the same roar? Is that what it is? Is that why it sounds familiar?
I'm not sure. I don't know if it's the same one, but I'd have to I'll watch this and then I'll see the clip.
I will put the two together and see if they are similar. I'll put them together.
Yeah.
But this thing is fucking useless because it stands there roaring and not just standing in front of him, roaring, while Marty and Aaron literally just stand there and discuss the possibility that it's all a joke. I'm like, okay, is it going to do anything? Marty is able to reach forward and attempt to take its mask off, but it turns out it's real. So I think these kids are dumb, and we're going to get to it in a minute because, and I think the episode treats us like we're stupid at this point because it's like, oh, it's real. Do you get it? And it's like, no. We know he can build animatronics. We know that. Why would I think it was real? I just think it's a robot.
Yeah, I mean, they've already established that he can make these very convincing looking animatronics. So
absolutely. They then try to use the laser guns, but now apparently the laser guns have just stopped working, so they run off. Okay, the laser guns were for what reason then?
Maybe, I mean, I can see like if it was like a real thing, it'd be like a false safety net type of thing that maybe you thought could save you, and then you have to adapt. I've never done one of those stupid like escape room things, but I imagine it'd be something like that. I guess we are supposed to like adapt and like pretend you're in danger. I have no idea.
Maybe you're right. You're right. But Piranha Person now finally decides to act and begins to pursue them. Slowly pursue them.
See, you have to kind of, yeah. So I'm saying like it's the whole thing of like, what happens if you actually get caught? You know, is it going to do something or?
Well, the kids do find another elevator, but Marty is grabbed by the ankle by the monster. Aaron helps him get free, ripping the head off the monster. And I was like, well, what do you know? The animatronic guy built a fucking animatronic.
Madness.
We then get a really odd scene where they attempt to make the kids rushing and running to get inside the elevator door as it closes. A really tense and close scene as they just get in the door. And like, I've seen this done in other movies and things like that. And like, what bothers me about that is like, it's an elevator. I know how elevators work, right? The door's closed. You push the button again, the door's open. Unless it's been called up to a different floor, the elevator is unlikely to move from the floor you're on.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's a fault with many movies and TV shows, I suppose, if they know how elevators actually work. And so elevator doors don't really tend to close if there's something blocking, you know, their path.
There is that as well, yes, as well, because the whole, when they're jamming themselves on the elevators, if the elevator door is going to close and crush them, it's like, no, most elevators stop and then reopen.
Yep.
Well, we now kind of lead in towards the twist, as we then see the kids are being monitored by Mr. Wright and a team of female women who all look exactly the same. A subtle but interesting touch. Now, I will let you know that, yes, two of these women, out of the four, two of them are different people.
Yeah, I mean, if you look close enough, you can definitely see like the subtlety in their differences, but they do a really good job of making them look almost identical. So
yeah, absolutely. Mr. Wright is perturbed by something, so takes a remote control and heads out. We then see that Aaron and Marty are back on Shock Street. They then see Mr. Wright, who starts by trying to hide behind a statue, but does it poorly, so gets seen by his daughter.
Cameraman's like, can see him straight up, man. So.
He's like that. He then approaches them ominously, causing Marty to get scared. Marty freaks out and tries to run past Mr. Wright. Mr. Right grabs him though and turns him off fire a switch on his back.
Shock.
Yep. Shocker and shock straight. Erin freaks out, and I'll admit I liked her freak out. I thought she did it really weirdly different. She then struggles with her dad, but her circuits seem to fry and she powers down. And I'm like, hey, you know what? This is a cool twist. Because instantly, without being told the why, you get it. You're like, he built these robot kids to be the testers. Like basically crash test dummies.
What did you do? What did you do to Marty? Why did you create these monsters? What have you done with my mother? Let me go! You're evil! Let me go! Let me go! Let me go! Let me go! Let me go!
Yeah, I mean, if we were going to do a tier list of Goosebumps twists that you could never ever predict. I mean, even though you say that is like a little hint that maybe an error you could see, but like I just don't think you could ever call this one. It is a really great twist, I do think.
I agree as well. What is particularly good about it, we've had wacky twists that you can never predict before, but we've often referred to them as nonsensical because they didn't really fit in the story that was being told. This is a twist that not only fits, it makes the story make a fucking ton of sense because you start thinking about it and going, oh, yeah, that's where we came in and this is why and so on. My only question around it is why, if they're just crash test dummies, did you go to the level to even program them to be so smart, to have a relationship, to see you as your father?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's love the twist, but it just raises a fuck ton of questions, to put it like lightly, because it's just, if their purpose is to just test this ride, then there's so many easier ways you could have gone to test your ride. I don't know exactly what his thinking was behind it, basically. Yeah,
I think with more time again, had they gone into the idea that he wasn't so much just an eccentric creator, but he was one that saw building machines as a love affair almost to a degree. So like,
I've got it, man. I've got it. His kids died, so that's why he recreates them, and it's sort of a thing where it's like a sad sort of thing where he's trying to recreate his kids and trying to like give them this nice time, and he wants to see them happy, by experiencing this ride and stuff like that. It could have like a quite like somber conclusion in that way, but that's what I would have done. Yeah.
It's an interesting one because particularly as Mr. Right now, I think comes across very cruel and very matter of fact about these robots in particular. He switches his daughter off via a switch on her back. And again, you could ask the question, wait, if they were supposed to be like humans, they didn't feel that giant switch in their back? It's quite bulky and big.
Yeah. Also, he has pretty much created like life in a way. This guy, so he's really good at making those animatronics. You got to say,
he's a mad scientist. It literally is that. He then calls for the ride to be shut down and all personnel to report to the street. We then see the women getting up and moving like robots, so implying that they are animatronics too. And we see, and this is what I liked, is they come out of this control room and we see that it was the room that Erin was interested in, and that the mask room was just another building on Shock Street. So implying that the programming of the kids started from the moment they walked in to that room when they were basically turned on. So when we came in with them at that start, you presume that was a room in a house of her home. And it was like, no, it's nothing like that.
Yeah, I like that, yeah.
And it also explains how we jumped from when they're invited to the ride to just being in the ride. He turned them off.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Actually, they do kind of just go from that one point to another without no in between. And yeah, it's clever.
It is. Mr. Wright reveals he created these elaborate robots to test the ride's safety. He says that he realized something went wrong, though, when they started talking about a mother, as that wasn't in their programming. So that part from early on. Okay, cool explanation. But, as we already said, why are you programming them like this anyway, mate? What the fuck are you doing?
I guess maybe because, like, it's you're supposed to believe, even though in the ride it seems like the dangers are false, I guess they're not. They're supposed to be real. Like the behind the door fire is like a real door of fire. So he could use like real people or like real children. So they're disposable. Like if they get like open the door of fire and one of them gets burned to a crisp, then it's like, okay, they're disposable. So you could, yeah, maybe that's the reason. But there's like, this is never going to get approved anyway, bro. You're just wasting your time. Yeah.
No chance, absolutely. He then orders them to be taken back to the workshop to be taken apart. And we then see him working on Erin 2 and Marty 2. And this is where the episode should have ended. The scene of Marty 2 being with his back open and being like his hand moving as he's being worked on. That's your ending. That's it. Because for me, what follows now is incredibly poor.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the most abrupt conclusions to date of a Goosebumps episode. And it really drags the episode down quite a lot, I think, because I think it would, like, sort of, the twist is good enough. Should have just panned in on his face as he's working on him and just, that's it, you know?
Yep. That's cold and dark enough already. But instead, the original robots power up upon hearing they'll be replaced. They approach Mr. Right and tell him that they want revenge. He tries to deactivate him, but they seem to have anticipated this, and apparently it was their plan all along, and they were just pretending to be deactivated. They say they want to live, and then the last thing we hear is Mr. Right crying out. And I was just like, good God, that is a crap ending.
I'd say you made us plenty durable.
Durable enough for revenge, anyway.
And you thought you could just discard us.
But I deactivated you.
So you thought.
I guess there are some things you don't know about us, aren't there?
We don't want to be deactivated. Do we, Marty?
No. We don't like that.
That is a crap ending.
Yeah, and the actor that plays Mr. Right, his no, then it's super, like, there's not even like a second in between his no and then it's like Goosebumps straight away. It's like so abrupt. You're almost like, is this like a false like finish? They're gonna pan out and like the kids are watching like Goosebumps on a cinema screen or something. I don't know. It's like it's like that, and you're like, what?
But overall, I like this episode. I like the concept behind it. I like the twist. I like the idea of the theme park ride. I think the acting is pretty solid, and I like the many, many references to previous Goosebumps episodes, the subtle stuff more than the in-your-face stuff. But ultimately, its flaws are significant. Its pacing, as you already said, has this slow start to then this fast-paced. We need to just get these kids going through sections on the ride without anything really happening of note. Just so we can get to this big ending aspect. I think, like, overall, it's a good episode, but that's about it.
Yeah, I think the twist itself makes it stand out so much because it is such a like really cleverly done twist. But as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I said about how like the rewatchability of it, I'm not sure is that great because a lot of the stuff you have to sit through, like a lot of the moments where you're like supposed to pretend to suspend your disbelief about them being in danger and stuff like that, or like the confusion and stuff like that, when you already know what they're actually doing here and what Mr. Wright's plan is, it does kind of drag it down a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I can see a thing because I think, like, God, yeah, the whole section of them being in that sort of toxic underground part is some of the slowest part of it.
Just knowing that they are just like crash test dummies, essentially. It's like, I would have preferred a situation where maybe we had seen them perish like many times. For example, maybe like we'd seen it from you just knew the twist maybe sooner. So you saw them there. I would like to have seen their failed attempts kind of thing, maybe where like one of them did open the door, got a satellite and stuff. And maybe he got driven to madness because he can just never perfect it, you know, no matter what he tries. And maybe then eventually he's got this big pile of them behind him, like failed failures, you know, and then eventually he could do the whole bit where they come to life and attack him, you know, kind of thing. Maybe one of them gets up who's like the one that got burned, you know, they all like get up all the broken, torn ones that he's discarded, like trash in the corner, you know, they could have like sought their revenge or something, you know. Something more interesting, because then otherwise you're just sitting through the mundane parts of them testing the ride and it's like nothing really happens anyway.
Yeah, I think you're right. You've kind of told it. It's what would be a lot more fun as well, because I think perhaps what this episode lacks overall more than anything else is the fun factor, without actually being scary either, because that's the thing as well. I don't think this one has any particular frightening moments. No,
especially when you like know they're not really in any danger. Yeah, because at least in other Goosebumps episodes when there's a monster or something, the characters, they, you know, they just feel the danger more, and they do something to escape it, and or something happens while they miss. It feels like they're never actually, nothing's ever going to happen because they're just testing a ride. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. So middle of the road for us as a starting point. It is Shocker on Shock Street, not our Shocker on Shock Street, which is the actual title of the book. For some reason, they dropped the A for this episode. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got any thoughts on it? You know what to do? Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon to help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?